All right. So, is there one thing on your mind in your life that you would like to change? Just one thing. Or one thing in your life that you'd like to change. A hot spot maybe that has your attention right now. I'm going to invite you to bring that one thing to your mind. Think about it. Think about that thing. See it vividly. Feel its impact on your freedom. Take a breath. Release it. Now imagine that's all you have to do to let it go. Stop fighting it. Stop resisting it. Simply know that it is done. It is over. It is finished. It is gone. Heart, mind, body, soul are healed. Truth is revealed. Peace is restored. All you feel is a deep inner peace. What if there's really nothing to overcome? What if there's nothing really to overcome? Only our wholeness to be accepted. Could life be that simple? That's our talk today as we're continuing with our theme this month, Living in the Light. And just imagine that there is nothing to overcome. Can you get your mind even around that? With all of the challenges and things in life, world, and all around us, even in our personal lives, when we bring it down to the personal, can we even imagine that possibility, that there's nothing to overcome? Is it possible to live the wholeness that the science of mind teaches us and tells us that we are? The word whole, ancient definitions and so forth, root words, I guess they call them, means healthy or undamaged. Healthy or undamaged. So when we're talking about wholeness in science of mind, we're talking about healthy, we're talking about undamaged. That really goes back to the root of it. But if we're not feeling wholeness, I'm not quite feeling whole today. What part of us knows that? What part of us is even aware that there can be not wholeness and wholeness? How does that even work? Aren't we whole or not whole? Science of Mind also says that there's a part of us that has never been harmed, hurt, or damaged. That's the wholeness part, isn't it? That's what we talked about last week when we were talking about the divine spark within us, God within us, the life presence within us. That's the part that's always whole within us, within our person, within our expression, within our spiritual self. There's also not God and anything. There's God, period. That's all there is. There's not God and anything else. There's not God in my illness, God in my broken heart, God in my broken bank account. It's just all God. Those things are just effects in our lives, aren't they? They're just effects in our lives that we experience. Think of a time when you were feeling healthy, when you were in love and you had money in the bank. That's a possibility too, right? All of the effects of our lives are temporary. This too shall pass. Because we're creatures of change. We live in a changing environment. We live in an evolving environment. It's not to say that while we're in the effects of those things that may be negative, that they're not real to us. They're very real to us. Those experiences can be real and painful and challenging. But it's important to remember that it's not the truth of us. That wholeness part that observes those things, that's the truth of us. Sometimes when I get a little sideways and caught up in my stuff, I'll remind myself that this experience is temporary. This experience is temporary. This is not the truth of who I am. This too shall pass. Kind of sets my perspective straight. By hanging on to the negative effects in our lives, though, we can create some drama and stress, can't we? For ourselves and for others in our lives. Now, we've all probably been the experiencer of some loved one's stress and drama, and when they're focused on their stuff. And some of us may have been the giver of that gift of drama and stress when we're in our stuff and something's going on. We're focused on that thing, right? It's how it works. When we're in a relationship, that's how it works. We share those things. But when we can get into that stuff and stay stuck in it, it can create an endless loop for us of fear and lack and blame and illness and poor decisions, poor choices. You ever known anybody that's gotten in one of those loops where it seems like they just can't get their life turned around? It's because we keep focusing on the what's here rather than the what could be. Ernest Holmes, of course, is the founder of Centers for Spiritual Living. He's also the author of The Science of Mind that we teach from. And in the 1950s, he had a radio show in Los Angeles. And every show started the same with his booming voice saying, "There is a power for good in the universe and you can use it." Still true today. There's still a power in the universe and you can still use it. And this power is not a power over anything. This is an energy source. It's a power source that we use to create in our own lives, that we partner with. It's the energy that comes through us, like we talked last week. So if you're feeling stuck in your stuff, remember that stuck is a mindset. It's a belief system. And we can change that. We can change our minds. We can change our beliefs. Life's always changing, and that includes us. And once we can accept that and kind of get in the rhythm and the flow of that, and remember not to get too attached to things and stuff, and then life can begin to flow a little more smoothly. And we get to choose what we hang on to, don't we? We get to choose what we hang on to. Sometimes we call those things boundaries. And sometimes they can be very healthy. They can be very self-respectful, self-loving boundaries that we set. And sometimes we set boundaries out of fear, out of lack, and out of limitation. So it's important to be aware of what boundaries we're setting and why we're setting them. Esther Hicks of Abraham fame, she used to talk about how we get to choose what we're going to think about first thing in the morning. And I tested that when she was teaching that, and I thought, is that even true? And I discovered that it is true. When we first wake up, what is the first thought that begins to come through your mind? Are we reaching back into yesterday and pulling up that baggage of whatever happened yesterday, last week, last year, or 50 years ago, and going to worry and fret and complain about that? Or are we choosing a new thought, letting yesterday be yesterday, and focusing on the infinite possibilities before us today? Perhaps move immediately into gratitude. I'm so grateful for this brand new baby day filled with possibilities. And I set my intention that every meeting that I have and every person that I run into, every conversation that I have is blessed, and that it empowers me and empowers the others. What is the intention that we set when we wake up? Oh my gosh, the alarm. I can't believe I have to get up. Why do I have to work? I don't want to do this. Gosh, got to deal with that problem customer again. They're just so hard to deal with. What am I going to do with them? It's going to be just more of the same, I know. That's sitting our day, isn't it? Yes. Yeah, that's setting our day. And that's what she was talking about, is that we can pick up that old baggage or we can start a new day. It's a brand new day. Part of the idea of sleep is to cut off yesterday, right? We get a new day to start over. Many of us have trunks of stuff to repack in the morning. All of the stuff, the hurt feelings, the blame, the shame, the beliefs in lack and limitation. Oh, I got to pack all that stuff in my trunk. I got to carry that stuff around with me. What if we chose to forgive, to release it, to let yesterday's stuff be yesterday's stuff? Let it go. Wipe the slate clean. Start new in creating in this infinite field of possibilities. Is that the fall from the Garden of Eden? Is that we want to keep dabbling in the old rather than creating in the new and the beauty and the joy and the peace and the prosperity and everything that's available to us? Accept peace, accept wholeness rather than repacking those bags one more time. Consciously choosing our thoughts when we wake up first thing in the morning. Having the personal and spiritual discipline to change is not easy. Anybody that's ever done it can say that's true, yes. Anybody that's working on it now, it's not easy. If it was easy, we'd all just do it, right? It's like Nike says, we just do it. But it's not that easy to do. Ernest says, we do not change all of the patterns of our thought in a moment. Thank goodness. Rather, it takes place little by little until gradually the old thought patterns become transformed into new ones by some inner alchemy of the mind, the operation of which we do not see, but the manifestation of which we do experience. If you've ever changed your mind about something or had an aha moment, we can all probably had an aha moment where something finally clicked. We don't know what that process is in the mind. It truly is a mysterious alchemy, isn't it? It's like, oh, I get it now. It all comes into place. Or if we have a shift in a belief, it all comes into place. It's like magic. That is the mysterious alchemy of the mind and the way that it works. And that's what Ernest is talking about. Little by little, it takes patience and perseverance, discipline and spiritual practices. But the good news, it's possible for us to change our thoughts and change our lives. It's like the cup of dirty water where we keep dripping the clean water into it. And with every drip, a little of the dark is displaced. It's diluted, it's displaced, it's diluted, until finally it's changed and transformed. At some point, it begins to get lighter than darker until it's completely clear. And the same is true in our minds and the way that our thoughts and beliefs can change. Now, we've talked a lot about the spiritual system, universal spiritual system in which we live. And I was meditating on that this week, and it came to me that it's very much like a government system. Now, not any like we've ever experienced or heard about on our planet, of course, but it's a government system where everything is designed perfectly. It's designed in love. It's given with generosity. Everything is present. And then we are there in self-reliance. The platform is self-reliance. Here's everything you need. Go discover, play, have fun with, and use these universal laws that work alike for everyone. It's one system. It works alike for everybody, and we can play within it. Unfortunately, the rules in many of our government systems today keep changing, and it's difficult to keep up with them, right? My friends at the IRS, how many times do they change the rules and regulations? It's impossible to keep up with them. That's why our tax returns are this tall now, right? But this system doesn't change. This universal spiritual system doesn't change. We can count on the laws of this universal system. Love, generosity, self-reliance. The power for good in the universe is available to us, but why do we stay stuck? Why do we stay stuck if that power, that energy is available to us? Why do we continue to focus on the what's here which we know is temporary, instead of what it is that is our true heart's desire that we're calling in. We were at dinner Friday night, and there was a table of men behind us, and they'd just come off the golf course, you could sort of tell, and they were having some fun. They were talking a little loud. And we gathered that they were from Alaska, and they're down here having some golf fun in the sun. And pretty quickly, the conversation turned to health challenges more directly. And we kind of smiled at each other because that seems to be, I don't know if you've noticed that with older people, we sometimes either lead or end up talking about health challenges. And it dawned on me, I thought, wow, here are these guys on vacation out of Alaska in December, down here in sunny Arizona playing golf. And they're not talking about the possibilities for tomorrow, what course they're going to play, how they're going to break 80 on the course maybe and shoot that wonderful drive. They're talking about the health challenges they had 6 months ago and what the doctor said and what the pills are taking. Why do we do that? What are we talking about? Are we talking about our hopes and our dreams and our desires for the future? Are we talking about something that we're complaining about, giving it more energy to stay put in our lives? Fascinating human nature sometimes, isn't it? I'm dealing with a very interesting tenant at one of our properties right now. We bought the property 2 years ago in December, and he has in his mind that he has an early termination of the lease, an early termination right, because we bought the property 2 years ago. And this is just coming to our attention now. Did I mention he's an attorney? His lease is up in 3.5 months. And he just sent us notice that he's taken advantage of his early termination. Like, oh, is he an early termination? What you talking about? So over many, many emails and him crafting a case against us, myself, my attorney, and 2 property managers, and we've all got probably 175 years of experience in the business, are going, I don't see it. I don't get it. I don't read it that way. He is crafting a irrational, silly story simply to get out of 3.5 months of his lease. How many times have we been the irrational one? How many times have we been the irrational one, created a silly or irrational argument for our limitations, for hanging on to our problems, for holding that boundary? How many times have we done that? We blame others for our misfortune. We profess that we want abundance, but we refuse to participate in the law of circulation, which creates abundance. How many times are we the ones? What if we go into the court of creation? Did you know there was one? The court of creation. Would they scratch their head, assuming they had heads? Or would they just say, you're absolutely right, your irrational story that you are not abundant, your irrational story that you are limited, absolutely will rule in your favor because it's done as you believe. Now, the part where you think you could ever really be unlimited because God created you that way, that's totally false. We're not going to buy in on that one. That's totally false. So the court of creation is the law, and the law of spiritual and scientific legal system that we live in has one rule, and it's cause and effect, right? It's cause and effect. What stories, what irrational and silly arguments are we using to justify our stuckness? There's a power for good, and you can use it. There's a power for good, and you can use it. Think of that statement. You can use it however you want, for your limitations or for your expansion for yourself and for everyone. You choose how to use the power. And I always am reminded when I hear of that of Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz when she lands in Munchkin Land. And all the Munchkins are Twitter and all excited about what is Dorothy? What is she doing here? Who is she? And Glenda comes up and she says, "Are you a good witch? Are you a bad witch? How are you choosing to use the power? For good or for not so good? Are you using it to expand? Or are you using it to stay stuck?" It's going to work the same. It works the same for us all. Ernest Holmes reminds us that there are going to be changes in our lives from hour to hour and day to day. We cannot escape them. It is the nature of the universe. Let us accept change, make the most of it, and capitalize on it. The action of the law never changes, but the direction of the action is always up to us. The direction of the action of the law is always up to us. Life can be a glorious adventure, increasingly filled with more of every good thing as we gradually or suddenly come to change our pattern of thinking so that it embraces more of those good things. He's reminding us that change is possible. If you're feeling stuck, that should bring comfort that change is possible. It can be gradual, it can be sudden. We've all heard of miraculous change, healed in an instant. Suddenly there's pain and then there's no pain. Suddenly there's unhappiness and then there's joy. So it can happen instantly or it can happen gradually over time. We direct the law of our lives through our beliefs and our choices. We have the power to change the pattern of our thinking, and then that brings more good into our lives. We're in an exciting time in our calendar right now in the December season. The holidays are upon us, and well, there's lots to get excited about. Travel and visits of family and connection and presents and surprises under the tree and all those good things. Whether it's the gifts that we're excited about, the gifts of the season, or the new year coming, 2022, bring it. What you got? We dealt with some stuff here. Are we ready for 2022? What does it hold for us? Opportunity, or is there fear? Use the joy, though, the joy of the season, the excitement, the emotions of this season, to call your good in and to release that thing that we brought to mind in the beginning of service. Release that thing that challenges you. Use the high energy of the emotion to transform that. Let's move to our practicing the principles and see how we might discover if there really is nothing to overcome. We've got our Mindful Monday email that goes out on Monday mornings. That is a recap of today's talk, gives you more detail on the spiritual practices that you can use throughout the week. You can sign up in the lobby, or you can sign up by sending me an email, and I'll make sure you get on the list. Number 1, were, are, desire to be, past, present, future. Spend some time this week contemplating the thing that you brought to mind in the beginning of the service that you want to change. Spend some time with it. Notice and record your thoughts about it. Brene Brown, we did one of her books a couple of years ago, and she said sometimes just dumping everything out. It's private. It's for you. Nobody's going to see it. You can even burn it after you do it, but just get it all out on paper and look at it. Look at it. Notice and record how you feel about this thing. What are your feelings about it? Are you attached to this problem? Is it part of who you are, who you have become? Is it something that's in the past that you're dragging? Is it part of the baggage that you're dragging around? Is it an old belief? Is it who you were, not who you are today? Or is it truly who you are desiring to be and you're in some sort of transition? If it's where you're desiring to be, if it's not who you are desiring to be right now, maybe it's time to choose the desire and to focus on that instead of that old problem, that old baggage. Focus on the new. Number 2, abracadabra. I want to introduce you to our guest this morning. We have Mr. Harry Potter coming down the aisle with his wand. He's here to make your thing, whatever it was, disappear, vanish in an instant. In an instant. How would your experience of life change if that happened? Take yourself into your imagination this week. Spend some time with it and imagine, okay, if this thing just evaporated and went away, how would my life be? Journal the details of your new life from the new perspective of the challenge is gone. Ask yourself, how am I living now that it's gone? What happens when it disappears? Be very specific and write in the present tense. Number 3 is ask for help. This week, ask Spirit, the infinite power in the universe, the intelligence and the wisdom of the universe, this question in your meditation. What holds me back from letting this thing, name it, from letting it go? What holds me back from letting it go? And wait for Spirit's answer to show up in your life. It may show up in the moment, in that meditation. It may not. You may just need to be on the lookout for it. Spirit works through us, right? Each of us and everything. It may be a billboard. It may be a license plate. It may be a song on the radio. It may be a conversation that you have. Spirit works through everything. So just be on the lookout. When you ask, what was it Jesus said? Ask and you shall receive. When we ask, we do get answers. We just have to be aware and look for them because they do come from unexpected places sometimes. When we choose to accept our wholeness and live as the spiritually magnificent beings that we are, there is nothing to overcome. Obstacles are seen as opportunities, challenges as gifts, and we live as if we know we are omnipresent in God, we are secure in our good, and we are perfect in divine being. I want to close with a quote. It's interesting, Daniel opened with a quote with Laura Day, and I'm going to close with one from the book. As I said, her process is broken into three steps. They are initiation, apprenticeship, and mastery. She says, you will know that you have achieved mastery by choosing one thing in your life that you want to change and changing it. Simply changing it. What change will you accept this week and become a master in your life? So it is. Let's anchor that in a prayer this morning. As we go within, we recognize the allness of Spirit, that God is all that there is. I believe in God and nothing else. There's nothing outside of this infinite wisdom, this creative power, this power in the universe for good, this infinite love that is unconditioned, pressed down to overflowing, this generous giver, the harmony and balance, peace and wholeness, the perfection, this thing called life. All of that is here now present in, through, and as me and each and every one of us in this room. For we are each created of this infinite love, this wholeness, and the perfection of life. It is the God spark within us, that burning ember, the love, the light. And so knowing that we are united in this wholeness, this oneness, this peace, and this power, I speak my word for and about each of us today, knowing, claiming, and accepting that we are each manifestations of God, and that there is only one, and that there is nothing to overcome. In this world of effects, we experience effects on a daily basis, some positive, some completely negative, horrific, and horrible. And yet we know they are temporary, they pass. And life continues its ever upward evolution in us, through us, and as us. And so we anchor in that truth and that knowingness that no matter what we may be going through right now, whatever darkness we may be challenged with, that this too shall pass. We will make it through. Because that spark of the divine, that life within us knows. It knows our wholeness. It knows our perfection. It knows our strength. It knows our power. It knows our wisdom and our intelligence. And it knows that we'll be making it through on the other side. And I know that this truth is true of all in the Midwest that were impacted by the tornadoes and the storms. And that this too shall pass, and spring will come, and things will dry out, things will warm up, houses will be rebuilt, families will come together, people will help each other. For that's what we do in times of challenge. We help each other. I know for anyone that has anything on their hearts this day, as they lift it into this prayer, that we recognize that whether this is in gratitude or in thanksgiving, or whether it is in a plea for help and assistance, that it's all here. We hold these beloveds in our light and in our love, surrounding them with the goodness of God, with the wholeness of life, knowing that what needs to be healed is healed, what needs to be revealed is revealed with great clarity, and that all desires are answered. So it's with great gratitude, joy, and thanksgiving that I release this into the action of law, the activity of mind, knowing this is already done. It is so. And we affirm this truth together by saying, and so it is.